You're watching Global News Morning on Global Kingston. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday. This is Global News Morning, and our good buddy Matt Lee joins us here. We're talking home inspections. It's not a necessity, but it is recommended.
Yeah, I mean, the way I start these conversations with any of my clients is you don't have to have one, but anytime that I have bought a property, I've had one. So I've been in the business since 2002. I see houses every single day.
Is it a regulated position?
No.
How do you know you're getting a good one?
You kind of have to lean on your real estate person for that.
Okay.
I think that I have people that are, they're a little tough. It's one of these things where I think that they need to go in there and they need to make sure it's not a comfortable thing for a buyer. I mean, to be brutally honest, it's one of these things where I warn my clients and say, look, you're hiring somebody that is a non-emotional attachment to this house.
Right.
They're an individual that's separated, right? They're going to come in and they're going to try to find every single thing that's wrong with the house, which is totally fine. What they're there to do is be informative. It's an information session.
Letting you know things that you otherwise wouldn't know about.
Right, and I think it's a good thing. I mean, they're there to provide these, but they're not individual tradespeople. So say there's something wrong with the electrical, then you call the person in. So you call the electrician in. If they can't make a recommendation right there, but you know what, it's one of these things, we'll go through the list and kind of, step by step.
Some examples of what a home inspector might find an issue with that you should know about.
So a lot of houses, we're looking at structure of roof, insulation, and sheathing on the roof. I mean, the attic is a big thing. What you want to do is you want to make that shell of your house bulletproof. You want to make sure that there's nothing coming in because of our weather. You want to make sure everything's okay. And what we run into is over time, insulation shrinks. So if we're looking at houses that is 1970s, 1980s, and they put in what they classified as the R value that they needed at that time, which was probably about R35. Let's say it's about 6 inches thick. Now we are requiring R60, which kind of makes a dome in the roof. So then all of a sudden you've got all this blown in insulation. So the insulation went in the 1970s. We're going up to check it today. Saying that it's just the cellulose, it's probably about that thick.
Wow. And you wouldn't have known that without someone looking at it and telling you, someone that knows and has that opinion.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what we run into is that we're showing the house. We can't inspect the house. We need these people to come in and look at this, and they're allowed to go in and pop attic hatches and pull things off the wall and take a look in behind. So
lots of examples to get through as well. Here's our second picture.
Yeah.
We're looking at, I guess, the foundation here.
Yeah, we're looking at a foundation. So I mean, a lot of your home inspectors have moisture meters. They're going to be identifying any cracks that either are, they could be a settling crack or they could be a foundation issue. This is the whole thing about making the outside of the house bulletproof. You make sure that the siding is taken care of. Another thing is the roof that we talked about and the foundation.
Bulletproof, what neighborhood is that person buying in?
Yeah, exactly.
Big gangs going on. Okay, some other pictures here.
Furnace. They're going to look inside the furnace. They're going to pull the panels off and they're going to look to see if there's any condensation, if there's any rust. But they are not... no home inspector that I know has a HRV license. They don't have a heating and cooling license.
But they know what they're looking for.
But they know what they're looking for so that you can then get somebody in to service it if it's needed. So then you write it in that, the furnace will be serviced prior to closing. You make sure that these things are taken care of. That's just my recommendation.
Absolutely. Better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
Some more pictures here, Matt.
Wood stoves. You want... An insurance company is going to want a wet certification, which is probably less than a year old. I use the cook stove as an example because this actually looks like a fake new cook stove that they've made it look like one. But we do run into older homes, farmhouses that have cook stoves. You can certify them, they can be done in a certain way, but you got to make sure that person that has that wet inspection license comes in and make sure that is taken care of.
Back in the 70s, they didn't have these type of sockets. I think they're mandatory now.
Yep.
And you know what I'm talking about here.
That's right. So GFIs. So we have these anywhere that's within, I think it's 5 feet of wet areas, sinks, bathrooms, so anything that can gather moisture, and that little button in the center will trip that off. And they will actually put for any reason that there's a line running, like they'll jump plugs, they'll put a GFI breaker in so that, if they need more than one, they might just put the breaker itself in so that if any of those trip, and so if you're at home, it's actually an interesting thing. If for some reason you think that plug went off and I can't figure out why, it's probably the breaker flipped off.
Knowledge, the best defense.
That's right,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just go through the whole list. I think I highly recommend it. Like I said, I always do one for my own stuff because they're detached from the house. It allows me to get another perspective, and I think it's a good thing.
Always a pleasure to have Matt Lee drop by. Thank you.
Real estate tips brought to you by Matt Lee of Royal LePage.